Well, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you're tuning in from. I am here, Yasmin West, with my husband Robert West, and we are back with Patrick from the Wellness Enterprise. Super happy to have him back, and I have a sneaking suspicion he's going to be a permanent fixture on our station and our YouTube channel. So we didn't really have a whole planned topic to talk about. We're gonna keep this intuitive and light and conversational and get into it. So welcome, Patrick, for coming
Thanks.
back. We love to
What?
have you. It was a fabulous conversation last time, and I'm sure it's going to be another fabulous conversation today.
Thanks. What a great way to say hello. I love just being present with you. This is where the magic happens. So thanks for having me back. It's nice to see you guys again.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
thank you very much for coming in today.
So um so kind of we I wanted to take a little bit of a deeper dive into some of the things we talked about with the water. Um, and one of the things we just recently talked offline about was kind of who there are certain people out there that are skeptical of this. And you know, maybe we can talk about they're not necessarily um, ready for this message. They may be. And one of the things that I've found is when I'm talking to people and trying to share this wonderful message of water, it's sometimes you just want to plant seeds and just let their curiosity foster and water that and see where it goes from there. What has been your experience when you come across people and try and share this message with them?
Yeah, so the first thing to realize is that the domain of water, where you go and like get educated and make a choice, an election for what's right for you, it's not a fixed thing. It's not, I chose my water and now this is what I do for life because we change, water changes, and evolution changes. Like we're in a time of the most rapid evolution I could ever imagine. And so we need different matches. So I think my story is fascinating from this standpoint because I drank reverse osmosis for 8 years. And I was such a diva during those years. I got reverse osmosis in my home, and I had like a world-renowned naturopath, and I took him some of my sample water, and he used his total dissolved solid meter, excuse me, and he measured the water, and it was like single-digit number of parts per million. And he goes, "This is amazing. This is really great water. Where'd you get it?" And I was like, I got it at my house. And he's like, you did it. That's perfect. And so I went to my office manager where I was this hotshot stockbroker driving my Porsche thinking I'm important. And I imposed my influence on the office. And so next thing you know, 37 people are drinking reverse osmosis water. And during the 8 years that I drank RO, I was sick. Now, I'm not blaming the water. I'm just telling you I was a match in consciousness to reverse osmosis and thought I was the bomb because I was doing the right thing according to this famous guy. So then when my um, when my divorce came, I began to become energy sensitive, and I began to become energy sensitive because I couldn't sleep through the night. And so I had this woman teach me to bring my hands together and feel the energy. And then I started moving it. I started learning Qigong and I started to awaken a deeper aspect of life, a next version of self. And as the expansion into a deeper aspect of life came, I left my marital home with the RO. And then I ended up leaving that office with the RO, and I took that, I had a water fountain that was made of copper, beautiful 4 foot tall spinning copper thing. And when I took it out of the stock brokerage office, I observed that it looked as clean as the day I bought it because I'd been hand feeding it RO water for like 4 years. And so I took it home and I wasn't thinking about this, it just happened. So I started drinking living water. And then my fountain got just, I mean, how does it happen? It's in the middle of my house. You know, theoretically, most of the windows are like not close to there. And it starts growing stuff all over it. And it turns green, right? From grasses and mosses and things like that. And so I'm outside in the yard trying to get that stuff off of it. And I'm like using a chisel. It was like really attached. And I'm like, I'm inside of like a complaint that I have to like clean my fountain like this. And then I just started laughing. And I was like, oh my gosh, this water fosters biodiversity. Things are growing in it. And instantly I knew that when I was on RO, I was feeding sterility, like being sterile to my body. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, is that why I was sick? And I was like, no, I'm not going to blame the RO water. Like, RO water is pure. And it's hard to think that that's at cause, but was it coincident and was it a factor? Yes, it was. So we all have our different choices. Like I went from there into alkaline water and then structured water. And each step along the way, I thought where I was a reason to defend, to protect, to be right. And that's the way we're conditioned in this culture. So the first thing to realize when somebody is like closed down to learning something is that person is being an adapted self. They're not being the authenticity of their spirit and their mission and purpose for living as a human being. They're being a byproduct of junior high school and this awful society we have that raises people to look at difference and like fight like cats and dogs with each other, right? You got to get a little cat coming in with a cat walking across your screen. And so they're not even aware of their real selves. And so when I meet people like that, I just do my best to honor them being where they're at. And one of the things that's most important for me to feel like I live in integrity in living my mission is I don't try to convince anybody of anything. It is not my job. I leave that one to God. And when it's time, they'll change. But the best thing is that in distinguishing that whole like landscape and realizing that there are some people like that, you realize that there's a polarity of those people too. And those are the people who show up in my life and like I can very often feel it before they know. And what it looks like is somebody starts to engage with the water and there's an excitement or an inspiration in them. And I watch them start to ask me questions, and they're not actually wanting to learn from me. They're wanting to dissolve or reduce the amount of their fear-based thinking because their cells already decided what was going to happen. I'll tell you how this came to happen. It's like back in 2013, my voice got carried around the world for the first time. And these people would show up and ask questions. And I wanted to hear my own voice. I'm like, I like listening to myself talk. And so somebody would ask me a question and then they'd start to answer it. And I was like, like, I didn't get to talk, you know? And so then after like those kept coming, I was like, wait a minute, there's a gift in here. And so I'd start to see those people and I'd put headphones on and I'd go out into the garden with the phone call and I'd start weeding. And so I'm like, they're weeding their brain and I'm weeding my garden. Like, this is great. And I would just sit out there. And a lot of those calls were like 45 minutes or an hour. And the person would just talk through themselves. But I could already feel that their cells had decided they're getting this living water. It's just that their mind was in the way. So there's this whole spectrum of people who are going to like grind you down with science and skepticism, and gosh, they must be so exhausted in their own bodies. Like I have so much compassion for them. Yeah, Bob, go.
So I got the three little quick points that I think will lead you to the next one. So Eddie Murphy used to talk about this in his comedy routines. He says, "You're not meeting me, you're meeting my representative." Right? Because that's who we're meeting. I mean, when people try to sell, and I talk about Bob Inc. When people try to sell Bob Inc., I say, what value are you going to bring Bob Inc.? That's not the normal guy I am. Normally, I wouldn't care. But when you want me to spend money, I want a little value out of it. And so my new representative shows up. He's my defender, right? He's like, I'm not going to lose my money on something crazy. Number two, people go out and my wife's done this. She would drive all the way over to this particular store to get particular water out of this particular machine. And I would explain to her that, first of all, I made the water that went to that store because it was in Roseville. And I knew the guy that serviced the RO machine on site. And I would explain to her, look, this is just like 21 stage filtration after I've already made it and going through this little RO machine, and you're paying $7 a gallon, right? So talk to people what they're getting in the bottle as opposed to what they're giving you, because
I will interject. Intention matters.
I'd rather have her distill it. That's annoying too. But could you relate the benefits and the worries that you see in that? Because these people, they're not getting better water by being bottled.
Well, yeah, I mean, what's the question is like, what's better water? And so this is a really fascinating topic because the big question behind that is who's doing the thinking? So people think they are themselves, like they belong to themselves and that they come from themselves. But what happened again in 2013 when my voice got carried around the world is that people called from all over. And so I got all these different dialects. I got ages and genders, and I get this wide conversation globally to learn about water. And as a hands-on CEO, I'm like right there. I'm like, talk to me. Tell me what's going on in your life. I was so excited that people would be like, I get to talk to you. And I'd be like, I get to talk to you. Like, you're calling me about what I care most about. And what I learned was there was a very narrow set of vocabulary and thoughts that were common to really everybody who called. And what it was a fear-based conversation about removing something from water to get purity. That's what they were in. You could have it sound however it sounded, but that was the conversation that people were in. And I'm really deep. Like I think about things a lot. So I'm sitting there going, how do you if the rule of the universe is oneness and everything came from the same place, then if you remove something from something, where does it go that's not still part of it? There's no such place as over there. So when we collectively adopt a system that has plastic water bottles be part of it and plastics in general, and then we are sloppy little garbage throwing people, and then there is wind, and then there is current and storms and stuff, then you get the earth is only so big. Like it looks so big until you start to actually study it and realize that all that wind and all those currents will cause a concentration of plastic that is entirely dense, bigger than the state of Texas, to gather in the middle of the oceans. So we can't get away from the problems that we create. So what happens is the thinking that we have is actually intentionally programmed into us. And so I had to go back and I couldn't believe this when I started pulling on the thread, right? Yeah. But I go back about 175 years now to the forming of the American Medical Association. And the American Medical Association has such a beautiful ring. It's going to be the people that are going to help you and I be healthy and well. Yeah, that's not where they're coming from.
No.
The AMA was formed by 250 medical doctors. And what they did was they created barriers to competition. They made everything that supported MD, medical doctor, the standard and the agenda of the culture, and they vilified the homeopathic schools and the different alternative therapies, and they got rid of it all. And then that type of thinking, as this world has gotten more connected through technology and the ability to have concentrated agendas, if you fast forward about 50, 60 years from there, you get to the Rockefeller and Carnegie agendas to form the education board, and the Flexner report, which was a study of all the schools that are out there and the establishment of standards that taught only one way of living, and then the removal of funding for schools that didn't do that. Like back in the day, there was many homeopathic schools as there were medical schools. And the people who came first that got more money and more power, they made their interests go. It's amazing and it's shocking and it's almost unbelievable. But your thoughts come from there. Like we all know the feeling of sitting in school and being like, why are they making me learn this way? This is so stupid, right? Like, what's the value of this education system? Like, what is it making me become? Like, I begged my kids not to go to college. I'm like, I'll give you money to travel the world. I'll do anything I can to like help you get a better return on investment in learning than going to school.
Yeah.
So, of course, I have one daughter who is now getting her PhD. And then I have another who went through school, and then he came to work for me full time. And he left his home in Hawaii, closed it up this month. And he flew to Manila last week. And he is now on a one-way ticket traveling around the world learning how life works. That's the coolest thing ever. Now that's learning. So we don't even realize that we've become agents of an education system that are causing us to not be able to articulate for our own best interests. So we show up in this conversation, Bob, thinking about this RO water, and we're like, purity. That's what makes good water. It's purity. I want RO. And, you know, I don't think being against anything in life is a good idea because it wears you out. And I used to say that I'm against two things. I got my list down to two. My former wife's divorce attorney. I mean, she was a real piece of work. And reverse osmosis. And I had to forgive and come to peace with the divorce attorney because I was poisoning myself the way I thought about her. And that leaves one thing in life that I say that I'm against, and that's reverse osmosis. And it's because of the experiences I had where water, God, creator wove together learning so that I saw the sterility of reverse osmosis and I could pierce through the idea of purity. And so people who are chasing purity, I would suggest, I don't want to judge anybody, but I would suggest they just haven't thought about it enough. Like a better question would be, what are the characteristics of water that support me to live as a vibrant being? And how do I have that be my choice of water?
So there's a way to kind of maybe talk about this a little bit and getting back to, how do I put it, the Roman era and before. We've been around for history for a long time, but we've had technology for a couple seconds. So we really, I don't care who comes on TV or the interview or whatever it is, most people don't really understand what's going on yet. And when they've done it for 3,000 or 4,000 more years, I'll take more notice on some of the things. But what we had before that was what I call local genetic codes. We drank from the water going down the stream. The animals drank from that stream. We all lived within the same 50, 60, 70, 80-mile environment. We all drank the same water. We all ate the same plants. We all walked on the earth. And none of us had the education to understand what appendicitis was. And yet we're still here. So having that local connection is obviously something that's going to work well with keeping you grounded to the place you're at, connected spiritually to the place you're at, because that's where you are. You're not getting in a plane as Cro-Magnon man and going over to Europe, right, and drinking their water. You're in your 50-mile area. And so I would think that part of this, what we're talking about, is the return, because the technology has been the removal of those hundreds of thousands of years of local programming, understanding, and the physical interactions we've had with our environment. And so now you're bringing a lot of this back.
It's so sad that we can be engineered so far away from truth. And it really takes something to pierce it. I had a poignant example of this come up in my life yesterday. So just very recently, I made an agreement with a seller of a home on Maui to purchase their house. And so I'm in the due diligence process. And I've been looking every day for a year and a half. So
Okay.
it's fairly routine for me. In fact, almost mandatory to feel good about my day, that I click on realtor.com and see the new listings for today, and I see which houses have lowered their price. So yesterday morning at about 11 a.m., a new house came on the market, and it's 20% less than the house I have under agreement. And it has sweeping bicoastal views of Maui that are like soul lifting. And I haven't had a single house that was in my price range that had a view like that. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. It's in good condition. You could move in today. And again, 20% less. So I don't know what to do. I'm like, this is serious. So I called my mom. And I'm like, Mom, I'm like, this is trouble. And my mom's all about views. And she's like, can you go see it? And so we talked for about an hour, and we tried to like understand the two properties. And then I called my brother from another mother, who's a regenerative agricultural specialist, and he's a deeply rooted man in values. He is not somebody who goes along with thoughts being programmed in his head. And I asked him to look with me. He knows soil so well. And so I was like, look at the soil here and like, tell me if it's okay. There's a golf course immediately adjacent on one side, and there's ag land on another side, and then a neighbor on another side. It's quiet cul-de-sac, amazing views, but these two things. And so I'm asking him, like, just look at the pictures and tell me it's okay to go over there, right? Like, I'm coming from there. And he teased out the conversation. And what I got through his values and seeing it through his values is that the house I have under agreement is a living ecosystem. It's on a slope on a wetter part of the island. The new house is on the edge of the desert. The Maui's like so amazing in its microclimates.
Yeah, we've been.
Yeah.
So amazing. Well, for people who don't know about it, like you can drive like 1 mile on Maui and you can get dozens of inches more rainfall than somewhere else.
Yeah.
So the house I have under agreement, it's a half acre, which is enough to feel big, but it's only a half acre, which is enough for a 56-year-old guy to feel like I could keep up with this. And it has room for me to remove non-food bearing trees and to plant avocados, mangoes, and breadfruit, which are 3 of the 5 foods I eat almost every day. And so I came to understand that the house that I have under agreement is a living ecosystem, and that when I go in there and I bring sacred geometry and composting and the depth of who I am as a being wanting to learn about the natural world, that property will hold me in aliveness. And also the soundscape there on the house I have under agreement is mostly you hear the trees moving in the wind, and mostly it just sounds and feels natural. This other house, while it's on a cul-de-sac, it's in a neighborhood with a golf course. You're going to have mowers and golfers and, people being people. And I don't really want any of that. And so like I went from like texting my realtor a message like oh man, I'm gonna have to have a hard conversation with this guy to, oh, I don't need to talk to you today. Like, I'm okay. Like, I just put the topic away all on my own and chose the living ecosystem. And honestly, that's a huge part of why I'm on Maui, and it's a huge part of why I do what I do in the world. We all have our life force. It's the most precious thing we have is our focus and attention. And we can use it in any way we want to influence this world. And what I want to do, because I've been through the experiences of chasing money, getting money, and losing money. And when I had the money, I wasn't fulfilled. So I know that's not the game for me anymore. I already played, won, and lost, like all of it. I saw it from all the sides. And so the only side that makes sense to be on for me now is the side of humanity.
Yeah.
Like the way people think matters very deeply to me. And that's why I've studied this stuff as much as I have, and that's why I talk about these type of things when I get interviewed, is to hopefully let people open a doorway for themselves to begin investigation into the way this plane, this third dimensional plane we live in, actually works. And if we can learn to get beyond our selfish selves and begin to connect with one another in stewarding this planet so we make the whole thing a living ecosystem again, instead of just me being privileged to like have this house and living ecosystem. That doesn't get us anywhere. that
Yeah,
just gives that just gives me something, but I want everybody to have it.
Yeah.
that's
that
that's what.
is this idea of treating our planet as non-disposable, non-renewable, that we don't really have any skin in the game. We don't relate to it because we're only here for 100 years or 50 years or whatever it is. It kills me. It kills me. It kills me. It kills me. It gives me rage bait.
Yeah,
Political issues do not rage me as much as a garbage truck.
yeah.
And I work in an industrial site across from a golf course where we make noise every day at 6:30. They start making noise at 5:30 and it's annoying. And the noise I make is a lot louder right now because we're doing construction. They're doing the blowers and the mowers, and it's exactly what you're talking about. You do not want to live next to a golf course. We live a mile away from one. 5:30 in the morning, it's dark, the blowers are going. We're in a senior community. It's like, what are you doing, right? So I think you probably made the right choice there,
Well,
in doing that.
and I'd like to add, well, there's so much that you touched on as
Yeah,
far as energetics and tension and all that. And the medical establishment. I mean, we might save that for another conversation,
yeah.
because I have my own story about navigating that. But I will just share, since we touched on real estate. That's amazing, that story there. And
Yeah.
we had a similar situation happen with this house that we currently live in, where, we were kind of in a situation where the value where we were living, it was trickling up, and it was too big of a property. We couldn't manage it, so we had to sell it. This was in the middle of COVID. So we couldn't get anybody to even come out and look at the place. But we kind of knew the general area we wanted to move into. And when we saw this house, the inside of it, I'll just say, was not appealing at all. But we walked into the backyard and we saw, because we like to garden as well, we saw there was just a lemon tree and bark everywhere, and we're like, perfect. We can craft our garden however we want, and I love lemons, so it's already there for me. But the timing didn't quite work out because our escrow got dragged out, and so somebody else put an offer on this place. Well, I mean, because we had looked at so many properties, so we were like, oh, that was it. And I was like, okay, there'll be another one. We won't worry about it. By the time our house closed escrow, this house that previously had an offer on it dropped out of escrow, and we were able to come in and purchase it. So
Wow.
I just find little stories like that amazing. And when you're in tune, you talk about how you're sensitive and how if you just relax and things look like they're not going your way or they're not perfectly lined up, they sometimes really are, and you just don't know that yet.
And,
Yeah,
she talks about the blankness of it, and we were just to take it a little further. We were looking at it, and once we decided to move in, I wanted to put in the growing beds, and of course, we're in this massive HOA monitored thing for seniors, right? And we did this on purpose, and we knew we would do this because at 8 o'clock at night, I didn't want anybody working on their hot rod. I didn't want anybody cutting their hair in the driveway, doing tattoos, using the place for a meth house. I didn't want any of that. So we moved into a senior community. It cost us a little bit more, but it came with this box that kind of makes it's wonderfully peaceful here at night. And everybody watches my house and we all know each other. And it's just we're that neighborhood in the senior community where everybody just kind of gets along no matter what the yard sign says. And so it's like really kind of cool. But there was nothing in the backyard. And so they said, well, you got to submit these plans. So I submitted kind of a plan and I kind of made a yard and I kind of sent them some pictures and I kind of moved a few things afterwards, but we eat out of 50% of that backyard. Every year but bell peppers, onions, tomatoes, strawberries fresh off the vine, cherries fresh off the tree, squash, we do all that. So that the soil that we're walking on is the soil that we're eating.
that's amazing. And I don't think we can overstate how important that is, because you're going back to where you started in the conversation, Bob. You're reconnecting with your natural ecosystem.
Yeah.
And so those plants take the minerals in that dirt and they suck them up and they make them usable for you, and they give their life to taking minerals and making it a form that you can take in. And I've heard it said that in olden days, one of the concepts was that everything you need is within 1 mile of your home.
Mm.
And so I have this. I realized when I made the offer on this house, I'm like, oh my gosh, like every exotic herb, every little micro crop that I feel will be a benefit to me. I'm in Hawaii. Everything grows here. I can have all of it.
Yeah.
And so I'm actually more thinking about nurturing my land, the new stuff. I'm going to put in some fruit trees. Those are really important to me. But from a medicinal standpoint, like there's things that we have that people just have no idea, right? In 2022, I started dating this woman, and she's very tuned into health. And she put her hand on my lower back and she said, "You have kidney stones." And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "You have kidney stones. Do you want to get rid of them the easy way or the hard way?" I'm like, "Easy way."
Yeah.
Definitely easy way. She's like, "Get yourself some chanca piedra and drink it every day until it tastes bad." And I was like, "What's that?" And I know a little bit of Spanish, and chanca piedra is stone breaker.
Yep.
It's just an herb that in many
They
places,
knew. Yeah.
right? You know that one. So in many places, things that actually have deep value for us, they just grow wild, and nobody has commercialized them or tried to make them any different than they are. So you can get a bag of chanca piedra that lasts more than a year for like $25. So I started just taking dried chanca piedra and making tea out of it. And for I think it was about 3 or 4 weeks, I would make 64 ounces of tea each day, and it tasted good. And then at the end of that time, I stopped drinking it. And I saw her again, and she put her hand on my lower back again. And she said, "You've been drinking the tea?" And I was like, "Every day. You told me to." She's like, "Kidney stones are gone." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like that was so easy." So, I have another one like that. There's an herb called cistus and canis. People might want to know what that is. So I'm going to CISTUS, cistus, and canis, INCANUS. And Dr. Dietrich Klinghardt, who's fairly well known around the world, has some content on YouTube, I think it is, about cystic canis and autoimmune disease. And he says it's very powerful for it. So I got like $250 worth of cistus and canis. Like I got like stacks of it, right? And I just started drinking it every day. And my kids came to visit and they're like, Dad, how do you live with the mosquitoes here? I'm like, there aren't any mosquitoes here. And like, I'm getting bit right now. I'm like, I've never been bit at this house. And that's when I realized that an herb, when you have the right thing in your body, it literally changes your whole being. And so this new house with all the water that it has a lot of potential for mosquitoes. And so I started drinking the tea again a couple of weeks ago. I'm like, I got to get on the cistus and canis before I move over there because I want to be non-attractive to mosquitoes. No vibrational match here. And yeah, and I'm also going to put in a koi pond because I've learned I don't necessarily fully understand, but I trust that when you have a koi pond with fish, the mosquitoes lay their larvae on the water
Yep.
and the fish eat it. So mosquitoes are local to a property. So if you put moving water, like your own little waterfall and fish on a property, all the mosquitoes will be gone and I'll have a mosquito-free property over there.
I'll tell you something. Out where I work is one of the most affluent communities in the Sacramento Metroplex called Granite Bay. So we have basketball stars and politicians and all sorts of interesting folks that afford things I can't even imagine, flying in and out in helicopters and stuff. So we have a lot of pool guys. We have a lot of koi pond guys. And so I met one of Pete's one morning and we were just kind of jabbing. And he goes, kind of looks at me and he goes, man, I make a lot of money cleaning koi ponds. And he goes, it's the stupidest thing that anybody does. He goes, those fish that are in there, they eat the larvae and the mosquitoes and all that. And he goes, water's more beneficial for them when the little green stuff's on the edges and they have a place to hide. He goes, I just don't understand why they have me clean this thing to such pristine nature when it's hardly any good for anybody. Locally, they said if they just let it roll a little bit, just kind of keep the cover, the top a little open, he goes, it'd be so much more beneficial for the fish, for the birds, for the, he's just going on and on and on. He goes, it's okay. He goes, they pay me like $500 every time I do it. I'm like, hire me, because you can't convince them. We look around and we go, we want this pristine stuff, but the water we've been drinking for hundreds of years came through the mountains.
So let's go deeper in that, right? Like that opens something up. It takes us right back to the reverse osmosis conversation.
Yeah.
So that person with all that wealth is thinking that they want pristine, they want clear. Like I wanted intentionally, when I had all that money and all that diva-ness, I wanted sterile water for myself and I made the world agree to give it to me.
Right. You bent the knee.
Right? And so this is a big concept for people to understand that like dirty's good. Like sometimes there's some dirt on the outside of my carrot and I'm like, I'm gonna eat that dirt. Like
it's okay.
That's minerals, not like too thick, but like I'll eat a little bit of dirt on purpose. And I don't I don't know if we get into thin ice here, you can pull me back, but like I never got COVID. Like my friends in Texas, they left their grandparents with their 6 kids, and the kids got COVID and started to spread it between them, and the grandparents ran, right? They're like, the door's flapping. And so my friends were out of town. They called me and they're like, our parents just left. Like, can you go take care of our kids? And I'm like, sure. Went over to the house, hugged the kids, made them meals, got a bed, moved in, all good. And zero concern or fear. And I mean, the world was pretty fearful back then. And I was like, my terrain is not going to get COVID. Like, I haven't had a fever, like runny nose experience in more than a decade. I'm not going to get it now. I'm fine. And so having this biodiversity creates resilience and purity. I hadn't thought of it before your point, Bob. Purity is something to be aware of, that it could be a threat, because I think I think probably the way that education system, part of how it introduced it into us is that purity is a threat because that's the natural world, and the natural world is wild and uncontained, and you need medicinal and laboratory and sterile and pure. I don't want that. Keep me
Yeah,
off.
I spent a lot of time reading about history and war history and studying history when I was in college because I thought I was going to be a history teacher. Yeah, okay, so that didn't work out. And then, later on, I did a little bit of construction. I ended up in the water and wastewater industry where now I'm thoroughly immersed in this kind of culture. And in studying history and in studying wastewater, the Romans, they're they are the anchor to the industrial wastewater process and water process that we use today, Roman technology. And so what the Romans did, I don't know how familiar you are with the train of thought, was that they would get these valleys ahead of Rome, and they would uh, cut them off and create the reservoirs. So you have these stagnant waters where everything came to and got all the ingredients that we're talking about. And then they channeled that into the aqueduct system and through mountains by carving tunnels and delivered it to the city through a series of lead pipes, right? So we all say, well, the lead part was really bad, destroyed the Romans. Well, actually, no, because the outside of Rome is limestone caves for the most part. It's limestone mountains. And so to keep the tunnels clean and operating properly, they would send the plebes in there to scrape the sides of the tunnels, which would drop lime into the system, which would change the chemical characteristics of the lead pipe and actually made them healthier. So by doing their little system of the big rocks, little rocks, medium rock thing, and running it over the organic matter, and then running it along the area through these little limestone passages and then into the lead pipes, they were actually delivering clean reservoir water that was attuned to the Roman environment and temperature without even working for it. Not one piece of mechanics in the process whatsoever, other than the guy scraping the lime and making sure that. I mean, and it worked.
Yeah.
Rome was an incredibly healthy place considering how many people lived there, and the conditions that they lived under were disgusting. I mean, right? These are the people that throw up on the floor, kind of thing. And yet they were incredibly healthy, except for an occasional plague in the really bad parts of towns. But for the most part, they were spiritually grounded into their city. They were physically active because you had to walk everywhere. Everything they were breathing was non-filtered. Everything they were touching was never sanitary. You know what I mean? Everything was atom, and yet they were strong, healthy enough to take over, 3/4 of the known world at the time. Must have been doing something right.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's a very, very interesting story of how different cultures come up and
Yeah, but it pretty much it's like what you're saying. This device is returning us to some basic grounding, understanding, and making us agree with our environment, and that makes us communicate again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, when I move to a new area, one of the first things I do is I go to the local farmer's market and buy a big thing of honey.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I just love buying honey on Maui because there's some really great honey on different parts of the island, different flowers and different stuff. It's really cool.
Yeah, geology on Maui is incredible. You have every zone represented on that island.
Right?
I mean, the USGS keeps a field school there for a reason.
Yeah, we go all the way up to 10,000 feet, and we observe the sky from there, and we get an occasional snow, and then all the way down to the ocean, and we got all the stages in between. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And we always like to make sure, Patrick, that we get the ways to contact you. And of course, people can pick up the device through the station, which, obviously helps us out too. But if they have questions or other concerns, you have your website. And do you have a YouTube channel?
I do. Yeah. So the company name is got the word "the" at the beginning. So it's 3 words: The Wellness Enterprise. And if you put in The Wellness Enterprise on YouTube, you'll find us. And come to thewellnessenterprise.com and interact with us. We're a sacred commerce company. That means we define ourselves as we love you. And so come and interact with us and tell us that you came to us through Yasmin and Bob, and talk to us about water and what's going on in your life and how we can support you. Like, it's a family run business. I have 4 kids, and one of them, James, has been helping me since he was 11. He's 23 now, and he really runs our customer service and shipping and logistics now. The shocker is his older brother, who went into the Coast Guard for 6 years and is now out. And he, about a month ago, first time in his life, he said to me, I want money. Like, my Coast Guard job was fine. And he always felt like he had enough on his Coast Guard job. But he's in a relationship now, and she's a pharmacist. And she had to incur a lot of debt to become a pharmacist.
Yeah.
And they've just moved in together, and they're 26-ish. And their plan is to pay off her debt and then buy a house and then start a family, because they don't want to be behind all the time while raising kids. So, and then she loves her career, and he thought he was going to be in the Coast Guard forever and ended up leaving after 6 years. So he's a little bit in this window. And so what they've decided is that he loves cooking for her and taking care of her and supporting her, and he loves the concept of being a father. So the plan is for him to be a house husband. And so he came to me. He's like, I got about 6 years to make as much money as I can to set my family up to coast after that. Now, I love my boy an awful lot. I love all my kids a lot.
Yeah.
And so he came to me for advice. And so he didn't get selfishness, he got truth. And so when I realized in the conversation what I was going to have to say, I almost like hung up on him. I'm like, I really don't want to say this. But he helped her get her pharmacy degree. And while doing that, they studied all the drugs together and all the interactions. And I said, you should be a pharmaceutical sales rep.
Yeah.
And I mean, I couldn't believe I said that to my son, but it was like, that's how you could go make the most money in the next 6 years and fulfill what's important to you. And he's like, oh my gosh, Dad, thank you so much. I wouldn't have thought of that. It's perfect. And then he calls me a week later and he goes, yeah, I've been thinking about that. He's like, what if I worked in sales for you? And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, like you and James are really good salesmen, and I figure I couldn't do worse in the couldn't do better in the world than to learn selling from you. So let me come learn from you, Dad. And I was like, oh my God, my son's soul is bringing him to the family business. It's bringing him to the nurturance and the aliveness that we're cultivating together of a multi-generational business. Oh my God, I was so blown away. So he's now called me. He called again yesterday. He's like, Dad, he's got a job driving a tow truck right now, and which is perfect because he loves like mechanical things.
Yeah.
Like, I can picture somebody like hanging their car on a tree and Peter'd show up with his winch.
It happens.
It does. Yeah, it's Peter'd show up with his winch cable and be like, I got you. No worries. But he's like, Dad, I want to quit in 2 weeks. So like, let's get the sales thing going. So it's so near and dear to my heart that I actually lost the context of why I started telling you that. So
no, it's okay to be a proud parent.
Yeah.
I'm not one of them. Neither is Yasmin. We don't have kids. A lot of the people I work with, it's kind of interesting. I've known people that waited to have kids into their kind of early 40s. And I've known people who've had kids, like they married their high school sweetheart guy I work with. He's 24, 25 having his kid. And I can only tell you from the experience of being a listener and observer, most parents tell me they wish they had them when they were younger and not waited.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason why I say that is because the kid gets to be about 20 years old. And when you're 50, standing in front of a 20-year-old, they kind of look at you like you still have some physical capability and mental capability and some strength, and you're in that kind of golden era, silver fox kind of thing. But then when you hit that kind of 57, 58 range, if you're not physically active or whatever, you start to look a little bit thinner and less mass and all that, and the kids relate to you differently. And nature designs us that way. It designs us so we can discipline, relate, and teach our children while we're young and still catch them. So that when we're older and they need the wisdom, we can sit in a chair on the porch whittling the pipe and go, well, maybe you ought to consider this. And they'll look at you and go, yeah, it kind of makes sense. I mean, that's how nature designed it, and it's okay.
Yeah.
But I wish them the best. No matter what they do, I want people to remember that no matter what they hear on TV, they should have the kid. No matter what.
Yeah. Well, it's one of Peter's the older son. One of his friends came traveling through Lubbock, Texas, where I was living for a minute, and stayed over a night. And he was covering the top of his car. He had a roof rack with stickers from all the national parks. And I was like, why are you doing this? He's like, would you want to raise a kid in this world? He's like, I don't know what my future looks like. I don't know about the dream of having a family and like raising kids, but I know that there's a lot of wild nature out there and I want to go see it all. And I was like, wow, that's a cool dream for right now. So it is a interesting world.
Yeah.
I definitely had 4 kids like more unconsciously, like I just was following a plan. And the plan was she's going to stay at home and raise great kids, and I'm going to go make a lot of money. And so we're gonna have the balance of enough money to balance enough kids. And that marriage was just not made on things that last. And so we got the kids and we got the money, and then we lost the house, the marriage, and the money. And so it all worked out to drive us to a deeper level of ourselves. And that's actually what's most important in life is the character that builds through adversity. The best things I've ever learned about myself, I learned while I was going through a painful time. But then once I got through the painful time, then that character then serves me forever. Like I own it. It's wisdom. It's embodied now. So we all have our different paths. I don't even know what's right for me. So whenever they decide, like, I'm willing to tell them, be a pharmaceutical rep. I don't know. Like I sure wouldn't feel good about spreading more pharmaceuticals in the world, but it's not like my son participating in it's going to make the industry any stronger or weaker. Like they've got their stranglehold no matter what. So
Well, and he came to that realization on his own. So that's what that that's inspirational, that it's like, oh, okay, this was an option to fulfill his goals, but somehow something tugged at his heart. And
yeah. Well, I would say those are like the evolutionary cues, right?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
like I told him yesterday what I think him coming to me with this request to join the company means.
Mhm.
And I said that your soul is seeing your brother and your father being super close and having really meaningful, fulfilling lives, and you want in. And so I honestly couldn't be more honored or more excited. Like I couldn't love you more. And if we can somehow pull you into the business and make it viable financially for you to be here and for the company to grow, then we'll get to grow as a dynamic that, a triangle is a lot better than a line. And right now your brother and I have a line. And this child, Peter, he's got extraordinary intellect. And so James and I are like dirt dogs. Like we're willing to do the work. Like if there's one starfish that can be picked up today, like we'll both get out there and get an arm and pick that starfish up if that's what it takes. And Peter's like, nah, Dad, like if I can't like find a way to pick up 10,000 starfish at once, then I'm not playing with the stupid starfish. And so he's got this intellect about taking what we do and actually causing societal change at a different level, because he only wants to work a little bit. Like inherently, he just loves being lazy, but yet now he wants something for himself. So he has to come up with fulcrums and leverage points to cause things to go at a different level. So like one of his ideas was that we approach celebrity chefs and sommeliers and people who have like really fine experiences with their taste, and we teach them that water goes beyond taste to a felt experience, that it changes the energetic of something. So how does your soup, your broth, your coffee, your everything change when you put living water in it? And these are the people with the sensitivity. So his thought is, if I can get those people to be talking about the Aqua Energizer, then the phone will be ringing off the hook, and you two dirt dogs can take all the calls and talk to them individually, and I'll go do what I want to do in life. It's very smart.
Yeah.
Well, we've gone quite a ways, but I think that's an excellent topic to start on next time we talk is cooking. Cooking with living water. So
Well, it absolutely makes sense. I'm a pasta freak. The water is everything.
That's
Water is
great.
everything on the pasta.
Well,
Makes
you've
me
got the
go.
Aqua Energizer in the house, so we'll be
Yep.
looking for a report next time we get together, Bob.
Okay,
yeah.
that'd be great. We look forward to it.
All right. Well, this has been lovely and enlightening, and thank you. Thank you for taking the time to chat again.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And thanks for going deep with me, guys. It's really fun to like have topics that actually matter in the world and might help people understand the truth of who they are. I appreciate that we can talk deeply like that.
Yep, I agree. Okay.